Hey, and welcome to episode 2 of Layout Teardown. I am Ben.
I'm Brock.
And today we are going to walk you through the layout and ad strategy of some of the largest publishers globally. We picked timeanddate.com. They're one of the biggest publishers globally, but they're in a very different category to large editorial publishers like the New York Times, those kind of websites where users are going there to browse, read content. The game there is really recycling those users, getting to read as much content as possible. For sites like Time and Date, really the users go in there to complete a task. They're going to complete a defined action. In this case, they're trying to understand time zones, calendars, those kind of things. So really, user attention's focused in a specific location. They're going there for a specific reason. So we've got less scroll depth, and we've also got a lot more competition. A lot of people can make these sites, and so it's a highly competitive area to be in. So generally, it's just a very different strategy, layout, and kind of setup than you would see on a big editorial site. So we want to walk you through why it's different, what we would do differently, and walk you through it on desktop and on mobile. Okay, so we're going to jump into a bit of the data. Obviously, we don't have any insider data here, so we're using a few Chrome extensions again. Shout out SimilarWeb to get a bit of an insight into what's happening. Before we jump in, Brock, how would we at Publift kind of categorize this type of site?
Yeah, we draw a pretty heavy distinction between transactional, which is what Time and Date are like, and editorial, or written content, your major publishers around the world. So for transactional sites, this is all about being efficient with your users. Users are coming to Time and Date and various other sites like this for a very specific reason. They're there to get a result. They're trying to understand, we're in Australia, we have to do this all the time, where our calls around the world. We're trying to figure out, all right, what time is it in London? What time is it in New York? Very much in and out interaction with the site. The need and the ability to linger drops away with these transactional sites. However, you're getting people that are there for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
And you can tease out intent because of that.
Definitely. Looking into SimilarWeb, obviously we can see they've got really strong monthly visits. So we got 44 million people coming here. Visit duration is pretty good. We're at about 2 minutes. Key thing there is that's visit duration in a pretty small area of page. So what that means is we've got high view time on those units. You can't really scroll past them. They're in view for the whole time you're really on the website. So we've got full 2 minutes on that unit. So that's really strong. Looking a little bit further at the kind of traffic split that they've got. So generally all high CPM regions. We've got the US, UK, Canada, Australia in there. India, generally a lower CPM, kind of, max maybe 20 cents, whereas the others could be $2 to $3 on a site like this. So, but overall it's a really positive kind of traffic setup. And then within the sources, it's interesting. It definitely fits with what we'd normally see, but they've got quite a bit of direct coming for a transactional site there. So 60% search. Generally for something that's like a tool, I'm looking at seeing kind of 70 to 80% in there. So I guess what do you see in there, Brock?
Well, I think to your point there, it's probably market dominance and keyword dominance to get that higher direct and very likely return users back to the site. They're not just competing with other publishers on the keyword, they're competing with the search engine itself. So I'm sure we're all familiar with what Google are able to provide. You can go and book your flights without even actually going to a website these days. You think converting time is out of the realm? Absolutely not. So they really got to battle, not only from a user experience point of view to get the user to actually convert from the search that they might have put in, but also compete with the traditional guys that are going to be there and try and offer a better user experience to their users.
And there's plenty of publishers that have been completely pushed out of the game by Google creating a nice little widget that pops up under your search bar and just makes them irrelevant. So the fact that Time and Date is holding on. Clearly they're bringing some value there. Personally, they're one of my bookmarked sites there, so I'm going direct to this site probably 3 times a day just to figure out when I can actually have a call with somebody. So yeah, really great site and a great transactional site as an example for us to walk through. So we will jump into the desktop layout. It's pretty simple. There's not a lot going on, predominantly just because there's very little scroll depth and they're getting users to exactly what they want to get to straight away. So great user experience. It just means that we've got a little bit less space to work with. First up is the top unit that they've got there above the menu. Brock, what are your thoughts on the placement there?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting. Obviously above the fold you get the latent effect there.
Yeah.
But we often wrestle with where we put our above the fold and then again above content or menu bar section ads, really because of the scroll. Now, Time and Data have done a good job at keeping it all above the fold on desktop.
Yeah.
So the need to actually scroll to use their content is nearly zero.
Yeah.
Right? So moving that unit doesn't make a whole lot of sense. However, as a A/B test candidate, that'd be almost number one.
So really what we're saying is users are going to scroll before the ad even loads or quickly that it's not in view anymore.
Yeah, yes, depending on the site.
Yeah.
So in this case it might not be the case. But because they've got a nice logo and they've put a lot of effort into making sure the UX looks pretty clean and quick, they are not opening themselves up to 970 by 250 demand.
Yeah.
Which you can do by bringing it beneath that menu bar. Now, that's a huge trade-off in this case. Because you will be pushing your search bar, which is the key piece of this whole page, on the fold or likely beneath the fold on a smaller laptop. So that's a huge thing to trade off on.
But I guess, that also could be placed just above the actual search unit here as well. So if we've got it within here, we're closer to where the user's located. I guess it's all A/B tests on where best it is placed. But yeah, the idea here is we're trying to get away from that quick scroll that we get from users at the top.
Yeah, and your rule of thumb there that you inferred is definitely correct, right? We want to get the ad units around content that is interacted with, that's in view for longer, and moving your units to be into those positions makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you just always have to have a finger on the pulse when it comes to UX.
Definitely.
We want to make sure that we're measuring the impact of these A/B tests.
Yeah, yeah. They have got a nice little stick for a few pixels that they're trying to combat that for. It's not super long, but I'm sure that's helped them a little bit. Okay, moving on to our second unit. So we've got our right-hand sticky unit here, Brock.
Yeah, so this is bread and butter stuff, in my opinion. I think they've done a nice job at keeping it starting where the content actually starts or where the interaction layer starts.
Yeah.
It's 300 by 600, which is great. If you can get 300 by 250s and your skyscraper units in there, it'd be even better.
Yeah.
And then you can also play around with the width of the page as well. So if anyone who's using a tablet or a small screen, you can change your size maps if you're using GPT like these guys are.
Yeah.
That's a very small change to make, but you're able to have customizable widths for these kind of positions. But this is a normal position, and I think they've done a good job at placing it.
Yeah, it sticks well. It's right where you're engaging with content, so it's going to be in view the whole time. If we were to make some optimizations, I'm not seeing refresh here, which seems like a big miss.
I'm sure it is, without diving into how they've constructed their GPT. It might be there.
Yeah.
You've got a nice Mercedes-Benz ads there.
That's true.
I don't know if that's retargeting for you, but you might want to refresh that one. So
yeah, that's true. If I was to add something else, we do have a little bit of scroll depth here. They've kept it sticky, but I guess conceivably we could stick in another unit below to get a little bit more ad density on here. If we could get it 300 by 250 in that position, maybe it's not quite enough space.
Well, there's a few strategic things to think about.
Yeah.
Right. We need to be measuring like the value of a page, which is more or less the sum of all the ads that are on it.
Yeah.
And what we could be doing is having a smaller unit sit in here, like a 468 in this empty space, which might be okay for proximity to clickable content.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't want to be inducing accidental clicks or anything like that. Or you could do a native product in that position. Alternatively, they might do a double MREC A/B test on the right hand side, or even a nice 970 beneath the fold.
Yeah.
So when I say that, I'm all about getting size variability into a page.
Yeah.
We would like to see that we've got a nice set of sizes, even if they are in different units and different viewability spectrum, even if they are in a different position to the key units.
Yeah.
We still want to get the benefits of having multiple different sizes on one page.
Yeah. So overall, they've kept it nice and clean. It looks really good. Definitely a few wins there in terms of potentially placing units a little bit closer to the area where users are going to be engaging. I think that idea of the 468 unit just here, kind of where there's a scroll bar, it's right in front of you, but it's not kind of impacting any of the usability of the site, would be a really nice one. All right, that's our desktop side of things. We will now have a look at what we might do on a loading side of things.
Yeah, looking at loading, it's fairly simple. Thankfully, they've only got the 2 ad units on this page, and when you navigate the side, they don't have much more than that.
Yeah.
So this is really going to be about how much time do the users spend with the key content in view, and how much does the ad unit follow that suit. So my guess, without looking at their gamma count or otherwise, is that these units are highly viewable, so they really can elongate their auction time.
Right.
Like it doesn't seem as if there is a huge need on desktop, at least, to really load things nice and quickly.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be a log jam with many ad units or video or anything like that. So we can, have a nice open auction and try and get as many bids in as possible, because we don't have to constrict how much time we have to wait for a response.
Yeah, and we have control here. So any auction, we have to give an end date so that people can, or an end time, so people can get a response in, but also that we load an ad eventually. The kind of classic or standard timeout rate, we call that, is normally set at kind of 1,000 to 1,200 milliseconds, but we have full control here. The theory is, the shorter you make it, the less opportunity there is for people to get responses back, so you've got a little bit less competition. The more you push it out, the more opportunity you give people to get a bid back, a higher bid back, and so you should generate more revenue. So the idea here is, we've got people on this page, they're completing an action, it's going to take them 1 to 2 minutes. We don't have to rush to get that ad in place. If, let's say, on another section of the site where users are quickly flicking through time zones, or it's a page that interacts with a lot quicker, we might want to shorten that up, or even adjust the auction that we've actually got so it's something quicker. Server side bidding is kind of a 500 millisecond auction, rather than client side or pre-bid, which is a lot longer. But yeah, controlling that and trying to optimize that will be important for a site like this. Okay, cool. We're going to run through the mobile setup here now for time and date. So again, they've kept things very simple here. A few things that we have noticed as we're running through the website is, there's not a, consistent auction across all pages. So we're pretty sure they're doing some kind of experimentation across the auction on the number of partners, and even what they're running on the page, from what I can see, Brock.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? When you're on mobile, it's a fairly safe inference to make that you're likely on 4G or even worse type of internet, and making a whole bunch of calls out of the browser is never an easy thing for poor Chrome or Safari to deal with. So reducing the amount of partners in this example, at least, is sensible.
Definitely. The first ad then we've got is their, head unit on mobile. They've gone for just a fixed size there, which is just a 320 by 50. They've actually got a 320 by 100. So they're kind of your standard banner sizes. Good that they got a little bit of multi-size in there.
Yeah.
We probably think that the placement there isn't great though. So they've put that basically above the whole website. So they've just left space above where the actual website is. users are going to scroll away from that extremely quickly. So the viewability of that unit, unless it's loading extremely fast, is probably going to be pretty low there.
The real point to that, in my opinion, is they have a sticky footer here as well.
That's true, yeah.
So on desktop, they've done a really good job of making sure that you don't need to scroll to use the content.
Yeah.
Whereas, although I'm not a world clock meeting planner guru, I feel like I need to scroll on this page.
Yeah.
And as soon as I do scroll, that unit disappears.
Yeah.
And that's where you lose the chance of clicks, of more interaction, of refresh, those kind of things.
Yeah. Really, that needs to be towards where the user is going to be. So I guess below the first heading, or even if it's somewhere closer to within where the user is going to be, we could push all this text down a good bit and try get it kind of towards that area. But we want to be closer to where users are actually going to be using this content. The sticky is interesting because that's running through AdSense auto ads.
It looks like it. You can tell by the close button that it has. This is very common across any AdSense using website.
Yeah.
The other point there is like which content is there for SEO purposes and which content is there for actually using the tool.
Yeah.
So you've got a few, like the please note piece. If you scroll up a little bit,
yeah,
you can see that seems like it's actually relevant to using the tool.
Definitely.
So pushing that content down, I can see why that might get a few frowns around the office.
True.
That being said, you move an ad unit down and you open yourself up to the 300 by 250, or even using interscroller type positions as well. So there's always going to be a UX v revenue conversation to have on this kind of page.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally they've kept it extremely simple with basically 2 units. So we want to try and make the most of those 2 units on site, and I guess getting it a bit closer to where that content is. If it could be a bigger size, I think that would have a big impact. Again, I'm not seeing refresh, and the fact that they're using AdSense for that sticky, again, you can't get refresh there. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity on that side.
For me, it begs the question on what their user strategy is longer term. Like, I know you're an avid time and date user, Ben.
Yeah.
Like, would you ever pay for time and date? It would be the question. And if that is the case, or if that's the strategy that they're taking, then it might make a bit more sense to push a little bit harder to get people to sign up.
Yeah.
And even just a free sign up, get the data in a privacy safe and compliant way, and do the right thing with it, of course.
Yeah.
But they'll be able to drive direct and PG in that kind of way.
Yeah, yeah. Personally, and I think I speak for the majority of internet users, these kind of sites, it's hard to see what you would be paying for when you can get so many for free. So I think you're always kind of stuck in an advertising strategy here. People try their best to kind of diversify and those kind of things, but yeah, we need these types of sites, but we don't want to pay for them. And I think they're stuck with a kind of advertising strategy there. If I was to give a few more ideas of what could be done, potentially implementing something like an interscroller on a unit that we had within the, they've got some kind of circulating modules at the bottom here to get people to other areas of the site. You could swap one in for like a unit that's got an interscroller functionality, so it kind of has a bit of interaction with it.
Or a bit of native as well.
Native, yes. We could actually probably design it to look a bit like that tile as well. So there's ways of trying to fit in with the user experience that they've got whilst getting a little bit more ad density. But clearly they've made a business decision to keep user experience really simple, have that almost as their kind of competitive advantage amongst their competitors, and it looks like it's working for them. So it looks really good. All right, so we've looked through it, and obviously we're all on display at the moment. Can you see any opportunity here for video?
Look, I can. I think it might sit a bit more comfortably on the desktop side. I think you're going to have a bit more of an engaged user in that case. Yeah. I think on mobile you might be pushing a bit too hard on your user experience.
I'd say so.
In these kind of transactional sites, that's all the difference between keeping a user and not.
Yeah. Okay, and that's a wrap on the second episode of Layout Teardown, where we went through timeanddate.com.
If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and if you have any feedback for us, drop it in the comments.
And for any publishers watching, if you would like your own free layout analysis, there will be a link in the description, so please reach out to us and we'd be happy to provide that for you, and we'll see you back here next time.